Again, we will start with a short motivation meditations. Okay. Keep yourself comfortable, relaxed. Feel the weight of your body on the cushions, chair. Let your breath flow naturally. And keep your attention observing the breath and being aware of whatever you observe. Once your mind has been settled down quite, then we can imagine that you are in your last stages of life in the bed, surrounded by families, friends. Even though people around try to give you hope, but you know from their expressions that there's nothing they can do. There's nothing the doctor can do. Even the prayers, practices cannot stop from coming to an end of our life. The signs are clear. Nothing can stop. From ending the life in this moment, anytime. And then try to see, are we ready now to face that? Are we completely ready to face the death now? If we feel we are not ready and we need more time, try to reflect why. Why we need more time. Why we are not ready now. What are the things that we need to take care of before we feel ready? If we feel we are not ready now because we have things to take care of, that we need time, identify, recognize what those are, the important ones. And make a strong determinations to take care of those now without postponing. To take care of them as soon as possible. without postponing, because the time does not wait for us. So that somehow, if the death comes suddenly in this year, this month, or this week, we feel more ready since we have taken care of some of those important things that we want to take care of, to be more ready. So that when we actually face the death, we can face with more peace, calm, readiness, less guilt, regret, less confusions, but with more clarity. Since life is very fragile, and death could come anytime, any moment, anywhere, to anyone. That I must make my life meaningful before it's stuck, before the death stuck to us. And the way to make our life meaningful is to really practice the Dharma. That is the only thing that can help us while we are alive, at the time of death, and after death. And in order to practice the Dharma, we need to be reminded of them all the time. Therefore, I'm going to listen to the talk so that can remind us, so that can inspire us, help us to continue to practice without any postponing. For that very reason, I'm going to listen to the talk. May all the act of us coming together, giving our precious time, energy, resource, to listen, to engage in discussions, reflection, contemplations. May all of these become cause and conditions to obtain fully awakened state, so we can be greatest help, benefit to each and every sentient beings. So we can fulfill the highest level of happiness of others and oneself. Okay, we can do that.
Please. Hello. Please turn to page 98 in the Read Prayer Book. We'll do the refuge and bodhicitta.
Test.
Okay, page 98. We do it 3 times in Tibetan. Sangye
Chudang sogi chonam la chanchu padu dane kyapso che dagi choshe gibe sonam ge chola penje sangye dupa sho. Chudang sogi chonam la chanchu padu dane kyapso che dagi choshe gibe sonam ge chola penje sangye dupa sho. Ge chödan sogi chonam la chanchu padu dane kyapso che dagi chöje gibe sonam ge dola penje sangye duba. So today's topics, how to help loved one or anyone who is dying, passing. Whether it's, human beings or even animals, In the Buddhist teaching and scriptures, it is mentioned helping someone to die peacefully with a positive state of mind is one of the greatest act of kindness that we can offer, provide to someone. Because any beings dying peacefully in a positive state of mind is so crucial for what kind of rebirth that they could have. It is the very crucial moment. It's one of the most crucial moments. What state of mind they have in that crucial moment can have a strong impact for what kind of rebirth they have next. And depending on what kind of rebirth they have, that can affect their whole life in that life and subsequent life as well. If you are born in a certain situations, life, not only there is suffering, but we don't have opportunity to practice the Dharma, then not only it affecting that life, but that could also affect the subsequent life. If they don't know how to, they don't have opportunity to create more virtues, doesn't know what is Dharma, what is right, wrong. So then it could have long-term consequences. It's not only the next life, it could have many, many lifetime consequences as well. And so therefore, to be able to help someone in such stage is very meaningful, beneficial, and kind act. And trying to help someone who is dying to have such peaceful, positive state of mind at the time of death might not be so easy. As much as we would like to help them to be able to do that with the right, best intentions, but sometimes it might not be so easy, because when someone is dying, they are facing a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties, challenges. There is physical needs, they have pain, physical discomfort. To be able to help them to relieve or reduce those physical pain, those physical discomfort. A lot of time, people are unable to do their own basic needs or basic act. Sometimes they cannot even eat by themselves, they cannot drink by themselves, they cannot go to bathroom by themselves, they cannot get up themselves, they cannot unable to sit by themselves, so you have to help them do all of that. And that can be sometimes tiring, exhausting, and again, we could become impatient, frustrated. All of this can. So again, so there is physical needs, there are emotional needs. When someone's dying, definitely, even when we're alive, especially at the time of death, they want to treat you with dignity, respect, sense of love, care, not to treat them as a burden, If they feel that we are treating them as a burden, then that can affect their emotions, feeling hurt, disturbed, So they want to be treated on, in a way that they feel that you are being respectful, have, all of that. And sometimes, again, it might not be so easy, not to feel being burdened, especially when we are taking care of someone for a long time and difficult challenges, Mm. And then, in some cases, they also need a spiritual needs as well. There is spiritual need as well, whether you have any belief in any spiritual path or not, but still at that moment, a lot of things comes. Trying to make sense of life. What is life about? Why do we need to go all through sufferings? Why do we have to go through death? Why is that happening? All these thoughts, doubt, all this can arise. And again, in those cases, due to all these doubt, thoughts, confusions, can make them difficult, painful. So to be able to help them in all, their needs, whatever their needs, then it might not be so easy unless we have prepared ourselves well, Mm. And in such cases, especially in the last stages of their life, it's important to understand what their needs are and trying to be there to be able to help them as much as we can to fulfill their needs. And keeping aside what our needs are, sometimes while we are trying to help someone, sometimes, it might be carried away by what we think is the best, instead of trying to understand what is their needs. What is their needs, understanding what their needs, what they want, and trying to fulfill that as much as possible, then what I think is the best. Sometimes what I think the best might not be the best for that person's. And then even you think it's the best, but sometimes if they don't feel same, then there is a conflict. Then they feel like you are forcing them some things. Even your intention is the best because you feel that is the best for them. But if they don't agree, if they don't have, then they feel like that you are forcing something they don't want to do or they don't agree. And in that stage of mind, at that stage of time, you don't want to disturb their mind so much. We want to help them be more peaceful mind, more calm mind, more positive mind, more not disturb their mind and not agitate their mind. And I think those are something that important to be mindful and aware of that, Mm. And to be able to help them, to be able to understand their needs, what are their real needs, we have to be able to listen well, you know. And to be able to listen well, also your mind needs to be more calm, peaceful, more open, you know. So it is important to, to be there, to listen with the compassions, you know, with total openness, not with like, you know, you have made your own mind, what to do, what not to do, what is best, not, and then you are just kind of, you are listening, but you are not listening. In your mind, you have already kind of decided or made what you want to do, not instead of what they want, you know. So, keeping your mind total open, you know, without all these decisions and then compassion, that is very important, you know, to be able to, and to help them to have peaceful, calm, if possible, positive state of minds is important that we can help create, you know, and creating, you know, peaceful environment, you know, in whatever way we can. In a certain environment, maybe there's not much we can do. In certain setup hospital, that there's very limitation what kind of environment we want to create, you know. But if we're at home, we have more choice to, you know, create more quiet, more calming, more peaceful environment as much as possible, you know. Sometimes it's not always possible, even in a home when you have crowded and families and that, you know. But we try our best according to the situations, circumstances, you know. Not being too noise, you know, not having too much noise. And so to be able to help them, then, you know, when they are going through such challenges, you know, physically, you know, their senses or sense organ and senses are, you know, shutting down. Bodily element are dissolving. With that dissolvements and shutting down that, you know, then, you know, unable to move your bodies, unable to open and close your eyes easily, you know. When your body liquid starts to dry up, you know, when you are unable to hear better or not hear, you know, unable to smell, you know, unable to digest drinks, you know, all this shutting down slowly, you know, unable to feel much, you know. And then starting to have difficulty with the breathings and so forth. When all these are shutting down, singing, then, you know, that lead to a lot of fear, could lead to fear, confusions, not knowing what is going around. Things seems not the same before, changing all the times, feeling more and more difficult, you know. So there is sense of fear, there is sense of, you know, confusions, you know. And then, in such state, it can lead to a lot of emotions, It can give rise to many different emotions. Maybe regret many things in their life. Maybe even guilt, or anger and bitter feelings towards others or towards oneself, one's own life. All those different feeling, emotion arises when someone's going through such difficult time. And they don't know how to deal with that. They don't know how to cope with that, especially if they don't have the tools. If they don't have the tools to deal and cope with that, then it can be very, very challenging. And to help them to cope and to help them to, have more calm, peaceful mind might not be so easy, Because when you see that happening, sometime it can give rise to your own feelings, your own different feelings. Especially, someone that is related with you, your own attachments, your own expectations, your own fear. And maybe also your own regret, maybe for something that you know that you might be losing, and there are a lot of things maybe we didn't do correctly, or we think we didn't do correctly, and we feel that we shouldn't have done that, we should done this way, that way, this. So all this can kind of flash in our mind in that moment, during those times. And that can also lead us to be, regretful, and so forth. Those emotions could also arise. And again, if we don't have the tools to deal with that, then when your own mind is disturbed, agitated in that way, how are you going to help someone who is going through agitation, disturbed mind, to find peace, calm, and positive state of mind? Is hard. Only when you yourself is able to keep calm, peaceful, undisturbed, then you can help the other person to be more calm, peaceful, and positive. Sometimes when your mind is very calm, peaceful, positive, sometimes you don't have to do much. They can feel the energy. Through that energy, they will start to feel calmness. You can feel that among human beings, even when they are not dying in general, also with animals as well, how our each other's energy can affect others. When someone is agitated and fearful, even you don't do anything with that emotion, it affects. I heard especially the dogs can sense very easily. When the owner is fearful, then they sense that, and then in that senses, they sense to be more aggressive to protect. Even they didn't do anything, but there is a fear, and the dog sense that fear. And so that is how not only animals, humans, we affect that, And so therefore, to bring that peaceful energy, calm energy, and to do that, then we need to have all the tools to cope if any of those emotion arises, so that we don't get overwhelmed, agitated by those emotions. So we can find some peace, calm, and by being able to find ourselves peace and calm, so that we can help them to find more peace, more calmness. And to be able to do that, then of course, we have to start working with our own mind now. If we don't start working with our mind now, in that moment you try, it's not possible. Even now, when we have better situations, we are not in that situation. Still, it's not easy. Not easy. When the fear comes, sometimes the fear can overwhelm us. Sometimes when anger arises, it can overwhelm us. Sometimes attachment arises, it can overwhelm us. So therefore, from this very moment, that is why we need to train ourselves, prepare for ourselves also to be able to develop those skills and tools to be more help and benefit to others at the time of death, in that crucial moment, and also other times. And to do that, we need to work with our own emotion, our own mind, practice meditation. And there are many, many different practices, meditations, that can be helpful, beneficial, non-analytical meditations, mindfulness meditation, as well as many analytical meditations, especially, meditation on impermanent emptiness. Meditating on how, each of our breath, each moment of the breath is not same. It was changing. Each breath is changing. Each movement of our abdomen is changing, not same. Each moment, our cells, old cells are dying, new cells are being produced. Our body is changing, moment by moment. Our thoughts, our feelings, our mind is changing moment by moment. The day is changing moment by moment. From light to dark, dark to light. From being sunny to cloudy, from cloudy to rainy, and everything that is surrounding us is constantly changing moment by moment. Basically, all the conditioned phenomena are changing moment by moment. That is the nature of those conditioned phenomena. So, through meditations, contemplating on that nature, being aware of that nature and accepting of that independent nature can be very helpful in dealing with attachments, dealing with fear, and so forth, and many other negative emotions. To have that awareness, through that awareness, to be able to accept can be very calming, soothing. If you have heard about the stories of this lady at the Buddha's time, Gautami, where she lost her only child that she had, and she couldn't deal with that. She couldn't accept that, and so she was running from one place to another place, asking whoever she met to help her to bring back her child. To cut the story short, then it led to Buddha, and again she plays, help to bring her child. She was in so much pain, And Buddha said, I can help you on one condition, if you can bring me, sesame seed from one of the house where no one has died. At the very beginning, she was so excited, because in India, everyone uses sesames. So, for cooking. So she went house, can I get some sesames? Yes. Has anyone died? Yes. Some places, their partners have died some places, their children have died some places, their parents have died some places, their grandparents have some, their uncles. And so she keep on going from house to house, hoping to find that sesame tea from a house where no one has died, and she couldn't find. Suddenly she realized she has these awakening moments, She realized, that is the nature of life. Everyone has to go through that. It's not only my child or me who is experiencing. Everyone has to go through that. Everyone has to face that. Once she realized that, without Buddha talking one word, that was the Buddha's very skillful means. Without saying any words, she had that realization after some time. And once she had that realization, her mind calm. Once she was able to accept with that awareness, that understanding, with that awareness or that understanding, once she was able to accept that, instead of being in kind of denial, then she was able to find more peace. And then she went back to the Buddha and bowed down, and then asked Buddha to take her as her students, and for her follow. So there are so many examples like that, when we are able to accept with that understanding, then it becomes less painful, less painful, less fear. Mm. And then, meditation on emptiness, also meditation on, to develop a strong, firm faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, or Guru, that can help us to have the strength, courage in such difficult time, Such difficult times, sometimes again we become broken, hopeless. And so we need strength in such moment. We need a strong strength, courage. And that having a strong faith in the Guru, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha can help us to have the strength in such moment. Mm. So that is one thing, to be able to help someone better, that we need to work with our own mind. That is the important. And it is the time now to do, so that we already have stronger practice and a tool that we can cope and deal with if by whatever reason, if any of those emotion arises, so that it doesn't overwhelm us, and so that it doesn't overwhelm, agitate us, so that we can be better conditions to be more help, benefit to the dying persons, so that we will be in better situations, better conditions, better equipped to be more help, benefit. Another things that can be helpful to die more peace, calm is, to help them to remember, the, to remember and to rejoice the good things that they have done, the positive things, the virtues whatever they have done, reminding them to remember that, think of that, and if you have, you can remind them. Because at the time of death, again, like in many situations, even when we're still alive, we tend to focus on the more negative one, what bad things we did, the mistake we made. We try to focus on the failure than the success. We try to focus, our mind naturally focus on more negative than the positive. So we try to help them to recollect, remember those positive things, all the good things they have done, the positive tip they have done, the virtues they have done, Because if they start to think all the mistake, all the bad things they have done, then they are going to have more regret, or more guilt, more bad feeling, negative feelings. But when you help them to remember, recollect all the good things, the positive things, the virtues, all the success, then their mind can be more positive, more hope, more calm, more peaceful. That is one thing that, again, we try to do. And that can be helpful. In New Mexico, there was someone, a Dharma practitioners, long Dharma practitioners, who have been very supportive of the Tibetan Buddhism in earlier her life, also with His Holiness, printing His Holiness books, pictures, and she was very supportive of Devon monasteries and so forth. So when she was dying, she died with cancer, and she died at home. Her husband, Harmin, asked me if I could come and do some prayers. And I went, she cannot open her eyes at that time, unable to open. But I guess she can still hear. Her husband said, "Oh, Geshe Sherab's here to do, prayers," and I did, of course, pray and all of that practice. But I also try to remind, by her years, everything that she have done, all the support that she have done for His Holiness, the monastery, all these years, all the practice she had done, all the connection she had with all the many high lamas, masters, So she can focus on that. She doesn't need to worry, There will be monks who will pray for her. The Devo monks will pray. His Holiness will keep in prayers. There's no need to worry. There's no need to be fearful. You have done everything. That positive karma, that you have virtues that you have already created all in your life, and also all they will continue to do prayer. There's nothing to worry, nothing to be fearful. And then I did prayer. I went, and her husband texted me. She passed 1 hour, 1 hour after that. And those are the things, something that we need to communicate. One thing is telling them not to worry. Because again, they might be worried about what might happen to children's, the wife, husbands that is left behind, what might happen to other things that they might be. And so again, whether they cannot, if it's possible, you communicate before, even when they are able to interact. But even if they cannot interact, still they can hear, even there's some, and so you can say in that, no need to worry, no need to be fearful that everything is going to fine. We will take care of everything fine, you know. And then reminding of those good things, importance, to give some kind of hope and positive, and not to be fearful of the futures, that they have lived their life good with all the virtues, all the positive, that whatever they have done, and helping them to, as I mentioned, they might not be able to recollect them themselves. So sometimes you keep reminding them. Mm. And then, forgiving themselves. Of course, if a Buddhist practitioner, especially in our traditions, then again, no matter how much negative karma we might have created in the past, everything can be purified. There's no negative karma that cannot be purified, And then at the time of the moment, you can help them to go through the practice. Even they cannot do by yourself. You can do very simple practice, and then they can imagine, beautify, and then they don't have to think there is any negative left, and then think of the positive karmas that they have, and so that they don't have to worry about the futures, and those things, So that is, creating more peaceful environment, externally, internally, environment in the sense that you yourself, who is trying to help, trying to create more calm, peaceful mind, to be able to guide them and help them in their transitions, you know. Um, then as we come closer to the actual death, and then one of the things also that can be helpful and beneficial is when someone's dying, especially if they are practitioners, to have pictures of their teachers, their gurus, or the Buddha they connect, or the main practice they do, in whatever lineage, to have that where when they are sleeping, when they are laying down in the bed, when they're open, they can see that all the time. And that can be a reminder them all the time, So the moment they open their eyes, they see that. So of course, not only, positive karmic imprint by seeing that, and purification, accumulation method, but also it can remind them the practice in relation to that. So then they can start doing whatever practice in some way. So to have pictures where they can easily see, that can be another factors. And if it's possible, especially if you know something, to clear objects that they are, if they see it, where they can be attached. If there is any object they are very attached to or fearful, not to have those objects around there. So again, if there is objects of attachment, something close by, and when they see it, they get attached to it, then again that can be sometimes struggles. There is a story of one man in Tibet who was having struggles to go, Physically, it's time to go, but something's holding that person back. So there is struggles, It's painful and struggles. And then, people who are taking care of them, they can see that he's holding on something. They didn't know what he's holding on, And then they went to ask one of the lamas advice. And then, the lama say, he's wearing some kind of ornament. Take it that away. So I think he was attached to that ornament, And once they took away, he passed away. There is another story of a monk, similar situation, who is having difficult. Again, they convey the message to the Lama, and then, the Lama says to tell him that there is, in his ears, there's a much more better butter tea in Pure Land than here. Because he was attached to butter tea. So and it sometimes it might seem very small, but like I heard many stories in Tibet, in many monasteries, where many of the teachers, when they were studying, they went empty stomach. They didn't have enough to eat. Their family were too far away. They come from very distance, and there's no families, no sponsor. They didn't have resource. There's a story sometime, one of the teachers, due to the hunger, there's so much pain in stomach. So, what you call stone, flat stone, what you call, that sometimes you put on the roof. The stone made out of stone on the roof, sometimes you put tile, I guess, maybe tiles, stone tile, and tied very tightly so it doesn't feel the pain, There are many stories like that. So they say, when they get a little bit of butter in their tea, it is a very special. A lot of time they get only the black tea, So when there is sponsor, and when they have butter tea, it's very special for many. So when you are in that kind of situation, then of course you can get attached to even as a butter tea. So anyway, so that was that he was attached to that, he was unable to. And so when the Lama asked them to tell him, and then when they told him, then he was able to let it go. So that is why when you have attachment to something, you are holding on something, then that can be struggles, to have more peaceful. And so therefore the advice is, if there is anything, objects that could be object of attachment to them, then, keep away from the sight, so that when they see that, remind them, and then they can get attached, fearful, wary, all of that, So in that way, we try to create as much peaceful environment as possible. Sometimes we don't know what they are attached to, also, But whatever we can, whatever we know, whatever we can, we try to do that. And to do that. And then, you can, if you know the practitioners, or even you don't know, you try to know what their practice are. It's helpful to know what their practice are, what practice they enjoy, or what is meant their practice. So if you know what their practice are, or what their main practice are, so you try to time, remind them to those practice. Time to time, remind them to do the practice. If they cannot do the practice themselves, then you can try to do the practice loudly, they can follow. Whatever practice, whatever meditations that they are familiar with, whatever practice meditations that they like, they are familiar. So we try to encourage them, remind them, and also we try to help them to do that by doing yourself, because they cannot read themselves or they cannot remember themselves. But they can follow you, And that is also I was told, recently when, Tisu Rinpoche passed away, I think last week or two, he was physically weak and he was in position to stand up and do all. So he was more kind of laying down. But he still did the self-initiation every day. He asked some monks to come and they will do loudly and he will follow with them and do in his mind, following all the sequences, all the practice. So this, like that, similarly like that, we can, sometimes when someone physically, not strong, weak, then you can do the practice that familiar, and so then they can follow in their mind. That is how we can help do that practice. And reciting the prayers practice that they connect, whatever practice that they connect, that they are familiar, and and also, if they don't have any strong practice, then, you can try to guide them a very simple practice. We can guide them to visualize, a deities. And even they cannot visualize very clearly, they just feel it is there. In terms of Buddha Shakyamuni, kind of a yellow Buddha there. Medicine Buddha, bluish, even though they cannot visualize clearly, but trying to visualize something there, which is the Buddha, feeling is there, and then you recite the mantras, and you can visualize from the heart of the Buddha, light comes, clearing, cleansing, and clearing all the negativities, all the negative karma, all the delusion, obscurations, and receiving all the blessings, all the spiritual realizations, So again, you can help them to do that, guide them to do that. Very simple practice and meditations. Of course, if they are ready to do that. If they are not ready, you cannot force it to do that. That is another thing that you have to ask them. If they are ready, if they are willing, if they like it, then you say, I can. And then, as I mentioned at the very beginning, sometimes even though we think that is the best, for them to be able to hear this mantra, to be able to hear this prayer and practice, but sometimes if they have resistance to that, then that can agitate their mind. So it is not what you think is the best, but sometimes it's what they want. You want to help them to have more peaceful, calm mind, not agitated mind. Yeah. And also with me, sometimes when I get some request to come and do prayer, someone is dying, first thing I ask is, are they okay? You know? You might ask me to come, but if the person who's dying is not okay, and I don't want to make that person agitated, you know, and disturb their mind. And I'm supposed to be there to help. Instead of being helping there, if I'm agitating and disturbing their mind, then and so and then of course at the time of death and after the death, you know, there are many different practices that one can do, you know. When someone's dying, you know, if they don't have any objections, resistance, and then, you know, when they are dying, you know, you can invite, you know, if there's a way, teachers, sanghas to do practice. And, you know, also one is, you know, to put, you can put small cream on the crown and then a little bit of sand mandala, you know, and keep it there. And they say it's like a paw. Okay? And then, so, of course, you know, also, if you have some holy objects, you know, statues, stupa, you can put on their head. You can do while you are doing the practice, meditations, you know. There is a blanket created by Rinpoche, you know, with full of mantras. You can put that blanket as well, you know, and then, you know, do practice. And then try to not move or shake the body so much, you know. Another is trying to make sure that, if possible, no one cry around there. Okay? To make sure from the very beginning, all the families, everything's engaging before, you know. If we want to help, we don't want to disturb that person's mind. If we cry, then, you know, that person's here, and then they start to worry about it. And then that worry attachments comes. Worry attachment make them more difficult. So we want them to go peacefully, calm, and so though we don't want to cry around that. If someone cannot stop their feelings, they can go to another room or another part where they can, you know, they can express their feelings, but not where that is. So it isn't. That is another important that we want to make sure that, if possible. But also we have to be sensitive. If someone somehow cannot control, and I can make them feel very bad, we don't want to do that too. Those are the important things. Sometimes again, you are crying, you know, how horrible. Now it's going to hurt him and harm you. You could do that, you know, and then again, it could disturb the person who is passing away and disturb this person and feel so bad out there, you know, now I've done something wrong to person who is passing, you know. So best thing is explain before clearly. But in some cases, even with that, sometimes people's emotions, you never know what happened, moments, and sudden, even they try their best not to explore that emotion. Sometimes they cannot stop, you know, and you can help slowly to lead them slowly, but without making them feel bad, you know. those are things that we have to be, because if we make them feel bad, but again, that could also affect them. Not only that, also later too, that can be something that can bother them, So those are the, not to, if possible, make sure that uh, no one is crying there, and and if someone's Dhamma practitioner, then you can try to have practice constantly, If you can do yourself, of course, you can request the monasteries and centers, and also, other Sangha members can come and help, do time to time, 1 hour, half hour practice, meditations, prayers, whatever, and so dedicate for the person who is passing away, So we try to keep the body not move as much as possible. Of course, sometime in the hospitals, they have to do whatever they need to do. There's nothing much we can ask for, but we can request them to do very gently, not too violent or not too strong. And we also request them to be able to keep as much as possible without moving. Of course, hospitals have rules. They cannot keep for a long time. So I guess some hospital might give you a few hours to keep there before they move. And even when they move some other places, quiet places, so that people can come and do the practice prayers, to move it slowly, we don't want to shake too much. So that we don't want to disturb the opportunity to meditate and practice in that moment. And sometimes we never know. We might think this is not a great meditator, and they might have the best opportunity, and to be able to use the best opportunity in that moment. So we cannot know for sure who might be able to utilize that opportunity or not. And so therefore we want to be able to give opportunity to anyone, whether it's Dharma practitioner or non-Dharma practitioners, and to have that opportunity in that calm, peaceful, so they can, and so if you have to move, then the sand mandala that you have put here, from there, if there's hair, maybe 1 or 2 hair, you can take it out, or if there's no hair like myself, you can just touch. You can just touch like that, maybe push a little bit, And so is that if the consciousness leave from that crown, then it's going to have better rebirth, And so that is why, and through the power of those, the power, the mandala, the practice, all of that, that is the power to help to push the consciousness from the crown. And so it's a good sign to have a better higher rebirth. Before we move that, so that the body, because when we move the body strongly, then that is when you disturb, and that is when the consciousness leaves. So before consciousness leaves from some other side, you want to make sure it leaves from there. And so that is why you do that. Generally, in our Tibetan traditions, sometimes they keep like 3 days, 3 days, without moving, especially in your home, you have that opportunity. Unless there is a clear sign the consciousness has left. Sometimes there will be clear signs the consciousness has left, even after 1 day, or even after maybe half day, So according to the, Vajrayana understanding, Even when you are clinically declared dead, when there's no more brain, brain activities, still someone might not be dead. The subtle consciousness, more subtle consciousness can still be there. Until that subtle consciousness leaves the body, he or she is still not dead. And so therefore sometimes they keep 3 days. And of course, if it's a practitioners and if there's a sign the consciousness not live, then it can be weeks, months, where there might be clear light meditations and took them, And there are certain signs that they have consciousness left. One of the most clear signs is when the body decays, starting smell. That's very clear sign, Another sign they look for is, the blood from the nose, or fluid from the sex organs, or they also check the heat at your heart. Sometimes it might be very cold on your feet, but at the heart, still there is heat. So those are the certain things that you check whether the consciousness is left. When the blood from the nose comes, then again it's a sign that consciousness is left. When there is a fluid from the sense organ, then that is also another sign. When there's no more heat at the heart, is another sign. So those are some certain signs that you find how to look whether consciousness is left or not. If there's no sign, and if you have the opportunity to keep, then you keep it. Give them the opportunity to be in that meditative state as long as possible. I haven't seen myself doing that, but like my brother was telling, in our village, because it's a very cold places, He remember when he was young, some teachers put, butter on here. And it's a check. If he's dead, the butter starts to melt, So those are some of the signs that you try to check whether the consciousness left or not. And then after that, then you take care of, whatever you need to do. In terms of the practices, of course there are many different practices, but one of the most common practices is the 8 prayers for the disease, such as King of Prayers, there are 8 prayers. King of Prayer, prayer to material, prayer to born in a, pure land, the dedication section from the Shandeva's Guides Boso way of life. Tongtama, is auspicious beginning, middle, and end by Lama Tsongkhapas, and then you can find in the Apimti, the 8 prayer for the disease. That also Lama Sopa Rinpoche also advised, as well as many other teachers, medicine Buddha, puja or practice, medicine Buddha practice is not only powerful for people who are experiencing illness, but also is powerful to purify and to have better rebirth for those who have passed away. If you cannot do all of them, at least King of Prayers. And then if you can, then also talk offerings. In the monasteries, they do like talk offerings and even self-initiations and so forth. But at least those, and then you can request prayer to be done at wherever, with your monasteries. And then, you try to practice, some offering charities, and then dedicate whatever virtues that one have done, through such practice, meditations, offerings, for the person to have higher, better rebirth and better conditions in the futures, especially to meet the Dharma and actualize the Dharma. So we can dedicate for that. And there is 49 days that the being can be in Pardo, intermediate stage, before they find the next rebirth, one of the rebirth. The maximum can be 7 weeks, 49 days. Someone can take rebirth even after a few hours, or maybe even our 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But maximum is after 49 days. And by the karma, by 49 days, they will find a rebirth, no matter in one of the rebirth. So therefore, in Tibetan, we hold the 49 days very important to do prayers during those 49 days. Those 49 days, and especially 7 weeks, each week of the passing away, those are the important. So if the Pardo beings, they try to find the rebirth, if they cannot find, they have mini death in Pardo. They die in Pardo state and take another Pardo rebirth. And again, for a week, they are looking for the rebirth karmically, where they connect, And then, if they don't find in 1 week again, and they have again mini death or death in Pardo, and again have another Pardo beings. So that can go up to 7, and by 49 days, then they will definitely find. So that is Buddhist understanding. Okay, I think in some, I think there is a little mix with Buddhism and Taoism, and maybe sometimes there can be a little confusion. I think, but in Buddhism is 49. After 49 days, they will have found a rebirth somewhere. So. So that is, those 49 days are regarded important. And so you try to do as many practice as possible, as much virtues as possible on their behalf, and then dedicating for their higher rebirth. And that, because of your karmic connections, when you do engage in those virtues and when you dedicate for them, then they can receive more because of your karmic connections. Due to karmic connection, stronger karmic connection, they can receive that. Also, the more higher realization being, also they can receive those prayers more than less realized. And also stronger connection, they are able to receive it more. And through that, then we can influence in their karma to have better rebirth and better condition in the futures. So those are the things that we can help at the time of death. I don't know here, but like and also I think in the United States, different states have different laws, In New Mexico, you have the options, hospice to die in home, and if you die in home as hospice, and then if you request hospice people and people who deal with the funeral, sometimes they are understanding and they can let you keep 3-4 days. And some of our members who passed away, 2 of them, we kept them 3 days. Mommy Max was one of them, and And during those 3 days, and even before that she was passing, the member was coming, doing 1 hour prayers, and another member coming 1 hour, half-hour prayers at different, uh, you know, different sanghas help visiting, doing prayers. Uh, they manage the timing, and if anyone want to come, so they can do the offer the prayers, and that they can do that too. So and so they were able to keep, you know. But the Rohina, I think we asked for three days, but second day there was the running of the blood, and then it started to decay, started to smell a little bit, and so then they came 1 day earlier to do that, and yeah. Rohina was one of the director, she was a director for that center for I think 12 years, you know, long time, and long students, very devoted students of Rinpoche as well. Um, she also died with cancer, and of course when she in her, as she was getting closer to death, I also went a few times to do practice, and also some other members offered to that. And then she was really getting very close. So we arranged, medicine Buddha practice. Of course, she couldn't participate. And at that time, she can hear, but she cannot respond, So her children's, had joined with her through the online, so she can hear. And then we do the practice, and then Medicine Buddha was one of her kind of favorite practice as well. And after we finished the practice, I got a message from one of her daughters saying she passed at the very end of the practice. As we were doing practice, so she was able to participate in a way. She was listening and that in whatever, and she passed away just by the very end of the practice. And then she told me, actually her mom told that she saw Medicine Buddha a couple of days before she passed away. So it's a nice story, nice to know. Whether it is hallucination, whether it really is Medicine Buddha, doesn't matter. It's something that you have a good, inspiring, good image and visions, or whatever you call it, And then in Tibetan traditions, then also, of course, in our tradition, in our culture, more than tradition, in our culture, we don't have the culture of keeping the ashes, once. Then we keep a little bit, and then release in the waters, and then a little bit they make few sasas, with the ashes. So again, that is one way of doing it. Different cultures have different way of doing it. I think here, you keep ashes in the temples and that. But yeah, in our Tibetan culture, there is no that tradition. Once it's cremated, then it will They will release most, and they will keep a little bit to make few sasas, and that, of course, yeah. And so I think that is, and then, some people do, most people will do one anniversary. After 1 year, they will do some prayers, you know, ceremony. And then most people would, but some family will do for 5 years, 10 years. Some, most family wouldn't do that, so it depends. Yeah. So I think that is all. Maybe I could take some questions.
Thank you, Geshe, for the teachings.
Is this on?
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Thank you for the teachings. Suppose there's a situation where all of these teachings and suggestions are applied in a situation. However, they fail to achieve the calm, peaceful death. Is there a practice that can be followed in such a circumstance afterwards?
To help with what?
To help with both the departed as well as those, and I suppose this might go back to the earlier talks about attachment. If a person has an attachment to a family member or a friend having a peaceful and calm death, and trying to arrange for that to be achieved, but it's not. So that attachment to that outcome has not been realized. So that person might feel regret that they failed to provide their loved one with a calm and peaceful death. What could that surviving person do? But also, at the same time, what can be done on behalf of the departed person?
Mm-hmm. Yes. One of the things is that we can learn from previous experiences. And each moment we try our best according to our knowledge. In certain time we don't have enough knowledge, we don't have enough skills. We try our best in that moment according to our skill, our knowledge. But now after later when you have developed more skill, more knowledge, you think, oh, I should have done differently. That is sometimes a lot of time how we feel it. But I think there's nothing we can do about the past. We can learn from that. And in that moment, you did your best according to your skills, your knowledge, your wisdom. And so therefore, there's no point of regretting or being, I should have done that, or holding, like, I should have done that, I shouldn't have done that. Because in that moment, that is all the skill you have. That is all the knowledge you have. That is all. So you did your best. There's nothing to feel bad and hold on that. And so therefore, through such understanding, we try to let it go, not hold on that. And if we don't do that, then we will fill our whole life with guilt and regret. Every stages of our life, from as a child, as we grow in spiritual, in different life, we do try to do best in that state according to our capacity knowledge. But as we develop more knowledge, more understanding, sometimes we feel, oh, maybe it should have been done that way. And then we might feel regret about it. But, instead of feeling regret, we should rejoice that at least you try your best according to your wisdom, your knowledge, your skills. That I think that is one thing, that to be more kind, gentle with yourself, and not be too harsh and too critical all the times. If we try to be too critical, too harsh, then it doesn't change the situation, but it makes worse. Because that is something. Yeah. So that is one thing, we have to learn to be more understanding, more kind, more compassion to ourselves. Just as we will do for the small young child. Even if they make mistake, we will be understanding, more kind, more patience, more caring, because we know their understanding is limited. They are not adult. We will be more forgiving, more patience, more understanding. Because that is only knowledge they have at that stage. And similarly, that is also we have different stages, and then when we reach certain stage, we might have things we could have done differently, but at that stages, that's what we saw. I think that is one thing, trying to be because there is sense of that feeling always. Always, I should have done differently. I should have done that. I shouldn't have done that, But even we have done differently or not done differently, still we don't know what the result might be. It doesn't necessarily result have been better. At the moment, we think maybe that might have been better result. That is just assumptions, That is just assumptions, Even we did differently. Maybe who knows, that could have made things worse. And so I think these are the things that we have to kind of learn to be more understanding, more forgiving, more kind to ourselves in that. And for those who have passed away, still, even they might have struggles. Even they might have some struggles in that moment. But again, there is still opportunity for them to change in the Pardo state. As a practitioner, sometimes something, even in the Pardo state, certain condition can arise where they have positive thoughts, positive things that could change. There is opportunity to change in Pardo state by themselves. And then also there is a possibility to change through our practice, dedicating them and influencing their karma. And so therefore we try to do different practices, maybe, we can make offering to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, holy objects. Maybe we can practice some charities, or we can do different practice, meditations, and prayers, and dedicate for them to have more peace in Pardo, as well as to purify all the negative karma, delusions, so they can have better, higher rebirth and better conditions. So that is what you try to as much virtues as possible, and then try to dedicate all of them for their better rebirth and better conditions. Yeah. I can see there one.
Thank you, Geshe La.
Yeah.
Just a question, what if the person is an organ donor in Singapore? How does that affect the process of rebirth or death or consciousness?
Yeah, and that one is a little bit difficult. Because I think it's new concept. I don't think there is a very clarity in sutras or earlier teachings. Also, I think same question has been asked to His Holiness and other teachers, and I don't see so clear yes, no answer. Always it seems to be a little tricky. If the motivations is pure compassions and wanting to help and save others, and then we don't maybe, feel that we have the capacity to use that clear light mind to really make a huge jump and progress in our path through that meditations, and we might not be able to utilize it, we might not be able to make huge differences, and instead I can save others' life with that kind of intention, motivation. I think maybe it could be fine.
Yeah, that is my intention actually, pure giving.
Yeah. Yeah, for someone more higher practitioners who have the ability to use that clear light mind to have a huge, big jump in their spiritual path, then it's a higher purpose, than that, so that they can be even more higher and bigger help to benefit in the futures. And so in that cases, you don't want to lose that opportunity. But I think for many others where we don't feel same way, maybe then it should be fine, I think, with that kind of intention, motivation, yeah.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you.
So what you say is that for POA, to facilitate that, to keep the head warm and the body not disturbed until the subtle consciousness leaves. Is that?
Yeah, if you can find someone teacher who is willing to do POA, then that is good. If you cannot find any teachers who do POA instead of POA, so that is substitution for POA, And so you live there, and before you move the body strongly, because when you make strongly, there is a chances of consciousness leaving at that time. And so you want to leave that consciousness before it leaves from some other places. And that is where you pull it. And so you hope, imagine, visualize, and then, consciousness living from that. And so, yeah.
So in Singapore, there's a practice of embalming, which means that when the body dies in hospital, the body is, someone collects the body in a bag, they push it onto a trolley, then depending on the time of death, it goes into a cold room, and then it goes to a trolley where they then put makeup and put all the things nice, so that it looks nice for the people who come. So that really disturbs the body, because I've seen it in a bag, then it's quite heavy when So
then
it's
you
a
can pull it
contradiction.
before they come and start to do that.
But that's usually within a couple of hours, so
Yeah, so that is all we can do.
So, well, I think it's maybe then rethinking a choice if we have to leave the body versus to make the body look nice for the people who come.
Yeah.
And we can say no, is that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have the choice, then I think it's better not to take it immediately. Maybe you can, if the hospital doesn't allow in that, probably they will not allow in that, room. But maybe if there is an empty room, there you can take it gently and keep there, and then do the prayer and practice there, as long as they allow you to do it.
Okay. Can I ask a second
Yes.
unrelated question? The story of Gautami.
Mm-hmm.
So the miracle happens when she realized that it was not possible to get a sesame seed from any house. What if she didn't realize, and the Buddha sent her on this path, and she keeps going from house to house her whole life? What would the Buddha, in his wisdom, do to prevent her from suffering less?
I don't know. What would that? I don't know whether Buddha will comfort her, give some teaching, wisdom, or maybe he have another way of helping her to realize it. I think what I feel is very skillful means the way Buddha did, because for a lot of us normally, we'll start preaching, oh, it happens to everyone's, and it can help some people. It might not help some people. They are not in, they are mourning and they are going in that kind of very difficult, and then to hear that might not be the right time and best time, So I think Buddha saw maybe she was in that state, and Buddha saw that that is how he can help her to do. That's the best way. But yeah, I don't know if Buddha, it isn't that happens. Who knows? I have no. Yeah.
So hi Geshe-la,
No.
I have sorry, I have two questions. The first is it okay to touch when checking for the heat? Is it okay to touch the heart? And the second question is, how does dedication help the Bado being? Because it's my action. I'm creating the cause, but they are experiencing the condition, right? When doing dedication. So how does that work? Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yes, you can touch the heart, as long as we don't move violently, it's just touching a little bit, doesn't disturb so much, When you started to move violently or strongly, then that is when, that can be more disturb the state of mind or meditations practice. How does our dedication help? The way I understand, in our material world, okay, material things, can I share my material things with someone? I can share. Yeah? If I can share my material things, can I share non-material things? Share or even give all my material things, to someone. Okay? I'm going in the mountain, keep everything you. I don't need anything, you keep it. You can give everything to someone. If that is possible, also it is possible to share and give our virtues, non-physical matter as well. And so just as by sharing my wealth, that I can help that person's conditions, relieve their poverties or their hungerness or whatever that suffering they have by sharing it. Also by sharing my virtues, I can influence and affect their karma to some, because I'm sharing my virtues, my karma, whatever that. So it's non-physical, so sometimes it's a little bit harder for us to see how it affects because it's non-physical. But again, we can take it physically, we can affect that. Also, why not non-physically? Also, we can share and affect that same way. So that is how I try to look at it. Yeah. Here, one, I think here. James.
Thank you for teaching. I suppose when we try to help the dying person calm their mind, right? The dying person
Little bit.
assumed to be a Buddhist, we assume. So you accept whatever we trying to help. If this person is non-believer or from other faith, should we do anything?
Yes. If his other persons is believer in other spiritual path, you can also encourage, inspire them or remind them to do their practice, to remember their God, whatever, to remember that and to keep that in their heart, in their mind, or whatever form of practice that they do. We try to help them to remind them their practice. If they are able to do their practice, they can feel, if they are able to connect with their practice and not being disturbed by the other mind, because their mind is more focused on that. And if they through that, if they have positive thoughts, that's what it is, to help them to have more calm, peaceful, or positive thoughts. And so one can encourage them. If there's non-believer, you can help them, maybe helping them to calm down by different methods, maybe see if we can help them with just helping them lead to just focus on the breath, maybe focus on the breath, or helping them to, as I mentioned, to recollect the positive things, good things, the virtuous things that they have done, so that if they recollect that, they can feel more joy and happy that their life has been some meaningful, beneficial and meaningful when they are able to remember and recollect the good things, the positive things, the virtuous, meaningful things that they have been able to do. So I think there are many different ways with our different skills means that can still help them to find more calm, peaceful, and positive state of mind, yeah.
I have one question. Is just now you mentioned about the sasa. So what is the purpose of that? And can you explain more on that?
Uh-huh. Sata is the Buddha's image, printed in the past. They do in clay, clay and rice paper, the bead. And now, of course, you don't have to do that way. There are better clay as well. Also, nowadays, you do with a different kind of materials, So basically, first, you cannot make sasa right away from that. You have to consecrate or do the blessing of the ashes. Because if you don't do the blessing of the ashes and if you just make that with the holy object, then it is also not good. So first you have to do, there is certain practice to bless the sasa, the ash itself. And then, little bit of that ash, you make the holy objects. And so making such holy objects, such as sata, is to create the merit. And so you want to create a merit where there is something from their side, and then, you dedicate for their better high rebirth, better conditions. So it's creating merit. It's creating more merit and dedicating for them. And because there is in that sasa, there is something from them. So then again, it is a karmically more stronger connection. And when we dedicate, and then again, it can be more powerful as well. So since they are not here at the moment in their life to create the merit themselves directly, so through that, then, creating the holy objects. Yeah. Any? That will be the last one. Yeah.
Thank you, Geshe. So my understanding is that if the consciousness goes from the forehead, you keep the forehead upper body warm. And if it goes from the legs, it's not a good sign. So is it at the last moments of death, keep the head and the upper body warm?
No, we don't. As far as I'm aware, I think I'm not aware that you have to keep it warm. Okay. What I was saying was there are certain way of checking, certain signs to check whether the consciousness is left or not. And one way of checking is to check whether there's a heat in your heart or not, or by the chest. So sometimes your feet someone who has passed feet might be very cold, but still there might be heat in their chest. And that is a sign maybe the consciousness is still there. Okay? So that is where we check. But you don't, in order to pass the consciousness from the crown to the head, it's not necessary to keep it warm. So that is not necessary to keep warm in order so the consciousness can pass from the crown or from the top. But definitely the reason we check on the heart is to check whether the consciousness is still there or not. That is one way of checking it. Yeah. Okay, do the dedications.
Please turn to page 246. May all beings everywhere, plagued by the sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with the mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored and finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. And may all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, and for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Please refer to the inserts. We'll be doing the prayer for His Holiness and for Kyabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Incomparable kind and superintendent Gyaltso, the wish granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life, and may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Peerless teachers and assembly of the children of the victorious one, Shavakaras and Prataka Buddhas, victorious lords of Father and Son, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Buddhist precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You are the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessing of the ocean of the three jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory to the fortunate disciples.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, please leave the cushions where they are, as we have classes on Tuesday and Sunday. Thank you very much. So our food has already been prepared downstairs, so please see you downstairs for lunch. Thank you.